What could happen if the scientific world and the spiritual realm joined hands to save our planet? Imagine the celebrated primatologist Jane Goodall and the revered Dalai Lama, the embodiment of compassion, standing side by side, urging us to care for the earth and every living being upon it. This partnership is not just an alliance, it's a wake-up call, a living testament that science and spirituality can be powerful allies in our collective mission to protect this fragile world we call home. Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama aren't just leaders in their respective fields, they are visionaries who recognize the interconnectedness of all life. Their friendship serves as a beautiful reminder that compassion is not limited to human beings but extends to every creature, every tree, and every river. This essay dives into the lives of these two incredible figures, exploring their shared values, their encounters, and the lessons we can learn from their inspiring collaboration. Stay connected to the wisdom of Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama. Subscribe channel and let's build a better world together. Jane Goodall, a life dedicated to primates and conservation. Jane Goodall, what an incredible journey she's had. Starting in the 1960s, Jane walked into the forests of Tanzania armed with nothing but curiosity and love for animals. Her groundbreaking discoveries about chimpanzees, that they use tools, have complex emotions, and possess social bonds, redefined the way we see not only our closest relatives but also ourselves. Aren't we, after all, just another species on this remarkable planet? Over time, Jane realized that these majestic beings were in danger, as was their home. This ignited her passion for conservation. She didn't stop at scientific discoveries, she became an activist, founding the Jane Goodall Institute and the Roots Shoots program to empower young people to make a difference. Hope, she often says, is what will inspire change. And maybe that's the key, isn't it? If we could all carry a little more hope, if we could truly see ourselves as part of the web of life, wouldn't we treat our planet differently? Jane's work in Tanzania was just the beginning of her journey. Her dedication took her to numerous countries, speaking to people from all walks of life about the importance of protecting not just chimpanzees but all forms of life. She has always believed in the power of local communities to effect change. By collaborating with villagers and farmers, Jane has helped create sustainable solutions that benefit both humans and wildlife. Her unwavering optimism in the face of adversity is what keeps her going. She has often said, "Every individual matters. Every individual has a role to play. Every individual makes a difference." This philosophy has been the driving force behind her efforts, encouraging people to believe that their actions, no matter how small, can contribute to a better world. Jane's journey has also been deeply personal. The forests of Gom became her sanctuary, a place where she formed deep bonds with the chimpanzees she studied. She gave them names, David Greybeard, Flo, Fifi, and watched as their lives unfolded, filled with moments of joy, struggle, and tenderness. It was through these intimate observations that she came to see the profound similarities between us and them. The realization that chimpanzees have emotions, that they can feel love, jealousy, and grief, was both a scientific breakthrough and a deeply human insight. It showed us that we are not so different after all, that the line separating humans from animals is far thinner than we once thought. Jane's advocacy extends beyond the animal kingdom. She has been a vocal critic of deforestation, climate change, and the exploitation of natural resources. She speaks passionately about the need for systemic change, urging governments, corporations, and individuals to take responsibility for the health of our planet. But even as she addresses these daunting challenges, she never loses sight of the power of hope. "We have a window of time," she says, "but it's closing. We must act now, and we must act together." Her message is clear: the time for complacency is over. We must rise to the challenge, each of us playing our part in the great work of healing our world. The Dalai Lama, a voice for compassion and the environment. Now, let's talk about His Holiness the Dalai Lama, a man whose gentle smile and warm laughter could probably melt even the iciest of hearts. He is not only a spiritual leader but also an environmental advocate. Growing up in Tibet, he witnessed firsthand the delicate balance of ecosystems, how a change in one part could ripple across the entire landscape. He saw the glaciers melting, the forests thinning, and he knew something had to change. The Dalai Lama speaks not just of inner peace but of our duty to the earth. He urges us to cultivate compassion not just for our neighbors but for every blade of grass, every drop of water. Isn't it fascinating to think about? Compassion, that beautiful human quality, isn't just for our personal lives. It's a guiding principle for how we should live in harmony with this earth, recognizing that our survival is interdependent with all forms of life. After all, when we harm nature, aren't we ultimately harming ourselves? The Dalai Lama's teachings are rooted in the Buddhist concept of interdependence. He often speaks about how everything in the universe is connected, how our actions, no matter how small, can have far-reaching consequences. This understanding has profound implications for how we treat the environment. The Dalai Lama believes that the ecological crisis is not just a physical issue but a moral one. It reflects a deeper crisis of values. A disconnection from the natural world and from each other. To address this, he calls for a shift in consciousness, a move away from selfishness and greed towards a mindset of care and responsibility. The Dalai Lama's commitment to environmental issues has led him to engage in dialogue with scientists, environmentalists, and policymakers. He has spoken at numerous international forums, urging leaders to take bold action to combat climate change and protect vulnerable ecosystems. But perhaps his most powerful message is directed at individuals. He encourages each of us to live more simply, to consume less, and to be mindful of our impact on the planet. Our ancestors lived in harmony with nature. He says, we must learn from them and find a way to live sustainably. His words remind us that the solutions to our current crisis are not new, they are rooted in the wisdom of the past, in the simple yet profound understanding that we are part of the earth, not separate from it. The Dalai Lama's approach to environmentalism is deeply spiritual, but it is also practical. He often emphasizes the importance of education in fostering a sense of environmental responsibility. He believes that young people are the key to creating a sustainable future, and he has called for environmental education to be integrated into school curricula worldwide. If we teach our children to love and respect the earth, he says, they will grow up to be its protectors. This focus on the next generation is a recurring theme in his work, reflecting his belief that true change begins with the values we instill in our children. The Meeting of Minds, Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama. What happens when a scientist who loves animals and a spiritual leader who preaches compassion meet? Magic, pure magic. Their first encounter, in 2002 in Dharamshala, India, wasn't just a meeting, it was the start of a profound dialogue between science and spirituality. They talked about compassion, not as an abstract concept, but as an actionable force that could transform our relationship with nature. Imagine them sitting in a small room in the Himalayas. The air crisp and cool, as they spoke of hope, youth, and a compassionate future. Both Jane and the Dalai Lama believe that the key lies in our children. The young minds that will one day lead our world need not just knowledge but also a sense of empathy and connection to the natural world. Isn't that what we need more of? Education that not only fills minds but also opens hearts. Their meeting was more than just a conversation, it was a merging of two worlds that are often seen as separate, science and spirituality. Jane, with her deep understanding of the natural world, and the Dalai Lama, with his profound insights into the human spirit, found common ground in their shared belief in the power of compassion. They both recognize that the environmental crisis is not just a scientific problem but a moral one, requiring a shift in the way we see ourselves and our place in the world. One of the most powerful moments of their meeting was when they spoke about the importance of hope. The Dalai Lama shared his belief that even in the face of great challenges, we must never lose hope. Jane echoed this sentiment, recounting her own experiences of seeing communities come together to protect their environment. They both agreed that hope is not passive, it is a call to action, a belief that change is possible if we are willing to work for it. Their words are a reminder that while the challenges we face are immense, we are not powerless. We have the capacity to make a difference, to create a better world for future generations. Shared values and the power of compassion. At the heart of their work is the profound belief in the power of compassion. For Jane, this means fighting for the rights of animals, respecting their emotional capacity, and understanding that they too deserve a life without suffering. She speaks to our conscience, urging us to extend our compassion beyond human beings, to embrace every living thing as part of one interconnected family. Jane often talks about the moment she realized that animals have emotions. It was when she saw David Greybeard, one of the chimpanzees she studied, comforting another chimp who had lost her infant. The tenderness in that moment was unmistakable, a clear sign that these beings are capable of love, empathy, and grief. This realization changed the course of her work. She began to see her role not just as a scientist but as an advocate for the rights of animals. She has since dedicated her life to speaking out against the exploitation of animals, whether in laboratories, zoos, or in the wild. If we have the power to harm, she says, we also have the power to protect. For the Dalai Lama, compassion is the path to enlightenment, the way to live harmoniously. He reminds us that the earth is not just a resource to exploit but a living entity deserving of our respect. Imagine if we all embraced that perspective, if every decision we made, every product we bought, was done with the understanding that it impacts not just us but every being on this planet. Wouldn't we see less harm, less suffering? The Dalai Lama's teachings on compassion are deeply rooted in the Buddhist tradition, but they have universal relevance. He speaks about the importance of cultivating a warm heart, of extending kindness not just to those we know but to all beings. He often tells the story of how, as a child, he would watch ants and other small creatures with a sense of wonder, marveling at their complexity and beauty. This early fascination with nature stayed with him, shaping his belief that all life is sacred. We must learn to see the world through the eyes of others, he says, to understand that their suffering is our suffering. This understanding is at the core of his environmental advocacy. It is a call to see the earth not as something separate from us, but as an extension of ourselves. Collaborative campaigns and initiatives. Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama have also walked the talk. They have participated in initiatives that bring scientists, spiritual leaders, and activists together to address the complex ecological issues of our times. Conferences like the Mind and Life Dialogues aim to blend the best of both worlds, scientific insight and spiritual wisdom, to solve problems that no one discipline can solve alone. The Dalai Lama has often endorsed Jane's Roots Shoots program, believing that the seeds of true change lie within the next generation. Young people need to grow up with a sense of responsibility, understanding that every action counts. And Jane, in turn, has praised the Dalai Lama's promotion of compassion as an essential value. They believe, and perhaps we should too, that the world doesn't just need more knowledge. It needs more kindness, more respect, and more heart. One of their most notable collaborations was at the Mind and Life Institute, where they participated in dialogues that brought together scientists, philosophers, and spiritual leaders to explore the intersection of science and spirituality. These discussions have helped to bridge the gap between these two worlds, showing that they are not in opposition but can complement each other in powerful ways. By combining the insights of science with the ethical framework of spirituality, they have created a holistic approach to addressing the environmental crisis. In addition to their work with the Mind and Life Institute, Jane and the Dalai Lama have also been involved in grassroots initiatives aimed at empowering local communities. They believe that real change begins at the community level, with people coming together to protect their local environment. Through programs like Roots Shoots, they have inspired countless young people to take action, to become stewards of the earth. The Dalai Lama often speaks about the importance of universal responsibility, the idea that each of us has a role to play in creating a better world. Jane echoes this sentiment, reminding us that the actions of one person may seem small, but when multiplied by millions, they can transform the world. the impact of their collaboration, the collaboration between Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama, is not just a story, it's an invitation to each of us. It tells us that environmental stewardship transcends boundaries. It isn't just for scientists, or activists, or spiritual leaders, it's for all of us. Their work urges us to rethink the way we interact with the world, to see conservation not just as a necessity but as a moral responsibility. Think about it, in a world often divided by differences, here are two people from completely different backgrounds coming together to fight for a common cause. Isn't that what true unity looks like? Their efforts remind us that the environmental crisis isn't just about policies or technology. It's about each of us changing the way we think, the way we act, and ultimately, the way we love this planet. Their collaboration has had a profound impact on the global conversation about the environment. By bringing together the scientific understanding of ecology with the ethical teachings of compassion, they have created a powerful narrative that resonates with people from all walks of life. Their message is simple yet profound: we must care for the earth, not just because it is our home, but because it is alive, deserving of our love and respect. This message has inspired countless individuals, organizations, and even governments to take action, to see environmental stewardship as a moral imperative. One of the most significant impacts of their collaboration has been the emphasis on the role of young people in creating a sustainable future. Jane and the Dalai Lama both believe that the next generation holds the key to solving the environmental crisis. Through education and empowerment, they have worked to inspire young people to take up the mantle of leadership, to become advocates for the earth. The Roots Shoots program, in particular, has been instrumental in this effort, providing young people with the tools and support they need to make a difference in their communities. The Dalai Lama has often spoken about the importance of hope, and through their work, he and Jane have given young people a reason to hope, a belief that they can be the change the world needs. Conclusion: Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama, two beacons of light in a world that often seems overshadowed by challenges. Together, they teach us that science and spirituality are not opposing forces but two sides of the same coin. They remind us that the fight for our planet is not just a scientific endeavor, nor merely a spiritual journey, it is both. It calls for informed minds and compassionate hearts. Perhaps the greatest lesson they offer is this: we are not separate from nature. We are deeply and irrevocably a part of it. Every tree, every river, every animal, their fate is tied to ours. And if we listen to the wisdom of Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama, we'll understand that the path forward is one of unity, compassion, and hope. So, let's ask ourselves, how can we, in our own ways, contribute to this compassionate stewardship of our precious earth? The future, after all, lies in our hands. The journey towards a more compassionate and sustainable world is not an easy one, but it is a journey worth taking. Jane Goodall and the Dalai Lama have shown us that it is possible, that even in the face of great challenges, we can make a difference. They have reminded us that we are all connected, that our actions matter, and that together, we can create a world where all beings can thrive. Let us take their message to heart, let us be the change, and let us work together to protect this beautiful planet we call home.